How did you get into radio broadcasting, and how did you get the nickname Hambone?
Okay. Well, Hambone has been my nickname. I went to law school, so I think I picked up that nickname in law school. One of my friends nicknamed me that.
Uh-huh.
With the last name of Hammer over the years, I've had a number of nicknames.
Yeah.
Slammer, Hammy they used to call me, but Hambone has stuck for, probably I went to law school in 1979.
Uh-huh.
So, 40 years, that's what people call me. I got into broadcasting. I lived up in Buffalo Grove for many years. We had a pretty tight-knit, neighborhood block. And we would have, every Labor Day weekend, we would have a block party. It would always be kind of centered around where I lived in the block. Always been into music, always been accused of having a good taste in music, and I would bring out, my secondary stereo and play music. About 1995, one of my neighbors said, you should get a gig on the radio, you play such good music, da-da-da-da-da-da. And about 2 months or 3 months after the block party, I get a call from this radio station. It was called WCBR at the time, 92.7. And someone called up and said, hey, we hear, that you're a really good music person, and we're looking for, a nighttime, part-time DJ to play blues. And I thought it was like one of my friends pranking on me,
Yeah.
I told the guy to get lost, more or less. I mean, nicely, but I thought it was just a prank call. And then the guy called back, and 25 years later, I'm still on the radio.
Can you talk about the show, Hambone's Blues Party, and how'd you get the idea? Do you broadcast from the back seat of your black Cadillac? I read that. I don't know if it's true or not, or what's the...
Well, that's my tagline.
Yeah.
You always know when you have, you meet a fan of your show, because everyone will almost always ask me, how's the Cadillac? Or it's funny, I do drive a Cadillac, and people always laugh when they see me. But I thought it was a good pickup line in terms of, something to be memorable about. It's worked out very well, yeah. One time we were going to try to stretch some mics out of the old station and put them in the Cadillac, but we never did. But, yeah, I said I broadcast on the corner of Blues Boulevard and Jazz Avenue in the back seat of the Cadillac. And it's really stuck nicely. I mean, a lot of people always come up to me and say, hey, I remember once I was at a bar and a guy didn't believe I had a Cadillac. He, made me go outside and show him that I actually do drive a Cadillac. And then people, I don't know if you know about my show, but I've had over 600 bands play live on my show in 25 years.
Wow.
And some of the bands who have never been on my show are always, take a second look, a double take when I show up in the Cadillac. Oh, you do that, Yeah, I've had a lot of great musicians over the years. 600 bands, everything from solo acoustic guys to 9-piece swing bands, jazz bands, soul bands. I once had a guy bring a steel pan, like the Caribbean drum type of thing. Always have been trying to be very supportive of local musicians. Because, given that I get to pick out my own music, and in, commercialized, homogenized radio, a lot of DJs don't, and they can't play people they probably would want to play. And I try to, feature live music as much as I can to help support the local community. And I know the local blues guys and soul guys really enjoy it. Gives them an opportunity to be heard, to plug their gigs, to plug their CDs. And plus, sometimes they just like to come on the show because we have a lot of fun.
How do you organize your show?
Some people probably say I don't, but
yeah.
My show is broken down. Usually the second hour is always a soul music hour. Not necessarily all 7 minutes of it, but the second hour I always play soul music. Both classic soul music and, more recent soul music. First hour, I usually play some jump blues, classic R&B, jump blues, and then some contemporary new releases. And then sometimes, I'll play everything from, Ry Cooder to David Bromberg. I pick my own music. I'm not really pigeonholed into, is that blues or not blues. I'll play ska music sometimes. I'll play some gospel during the soul set sometimes. And what I usually do is I usually spend, Monday, Tuesday thinking about what I'm going to play. And then Wednesday, I'll pull my music. I don't necessarily, a lot of DJs have exactly what order they're going to play their music, and they can write down the set list before they get to the station. I don't do it that way. I bring enough music that I have enough, and in my head, I think what will sound, in a segue, what will sound good next to the song that I just played. A lot of, I think most stations don't think about, like, a set, so to speak. They just play whatever top song that's on the set list I gotta play. But so I try to make the set sound good with the other music in it. But a lot of times I'll just be like, I change it like on the fly. Oh, this next song I was gonna play doesn't quite fit, but this one will sound better. Yeah. So I'm not saying that I'm improvising like a jazz musician, because I wouldn't pretend to be, but I always, if I wrote a set list, it would be changed every single week, because I always flip when I think of a song that may sound a little better.
I read in an interview, were you close with Muddy Waters, or something with Georgetown University or something with you and him?
When I went to Georgetown, I actually saw Muddy a lot. I mean, I saw him, over a dozen times in the late 70s, in the mid 70s. And I got to bump into him quite often, and I can't say I was close to him, but it was a good introduction to the blues for, a white kid from Long Island, and that was when Muddy just came out with his Born Against album. Pretty popular, great band, and I saw Muddy a lot. I'm happy to say I did.
What are your thoughts on the current Chicago blues scene?
Well, we get a little spoiled here during, the normal period of time. You could go out and hear blues at a few clubs, 7 days a week. Some of the clubs in recent years have closed on the south side of Chicago, which is unfortunate. There's a whole separate scene down there. I think the scene in Chicago is good because I think we have a lot of great musicians. And there are a lot of musicians who are maybe not well known nationwide, but a guy like Rigo McFarland, who is a monster. He's played with everyone. You could hear him, once or twice a week on Blues and Halstead, and probably would not be known much outside of, musical people or Chicago people, but he's just tremendous. We got, great singers, great vocalists, all different types. Everyone brings their own thing. I was just reading Vance Kelly's playing tonight down at the Taylor Street Tap with Rick King, who's a drummer, and Marty Salmon, who's Buddy Guy's keyboard player. It's a bar. It's not a blues club, but on Sundays they have this really, funky groove going on down there. It's a little special. You can always find a little out of the way places that will feature live music.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of. I don't play on my show. I don't play like Eric Clapton or Stevie Ray Vaughan or stuff that you can hear on other radio stations. I try to introduce music that you've not heard. I'll play Chris Kane, who doesn't get any radio play here in Chicago. Or of course I always feature the local artists and the Alligator Records and Delmark record label, two big blues labels here in Chicago, and they're putting out great material. And I don't play a lot of I call it like front porch, classic country blues, like solo acoustic country blues. I enjoy it, but I don't play it. I don't know if it translates well on the radio. So. Gotcha.
Can you talk about your blues blogging? Is that something you still do?
I used to do that years ago, but I have not done much blogging. I used to review CDs for an online Chicago blues-based calendar thing, but I don't do much blogging anymore. I probably should, but it's on the list.
Yeah, gotcha. And what shows have you emceed? Any good MC moments for you?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I've emceed the Chicago Blues Fest for over 20 years.
Wow.
I have emceed the Blues on the Fox in Aurora for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've emceed Taste of Chicago when they used to have a blues stage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I did that a couple times. I've emceed the Chicago Jazz Fest on a couple occasions, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I did Art Hoyle. I introduced him, and he just passed away, and he was a monster. I was like, oh my God, I get to bring up Art Hoyle,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like it was a great moment. It was like I felt I had to pinch myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming.
Wow.
There was a Blues Fest up in Vernon Hills
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
called Big Bear or Little Bear Blues Fest.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for a number of years.
And last question, what's next for the Hambone?
Well, I hope to be back on the radio live. Up till the coronavirus, I think in 25 years, I missed 5 shows. I like doing it live. I would not get the same jolt,
Mm-hmm.
the same buzz. If I pre-recorded my show and they played it, I mean, it would still be cool, but I wouldn't get the the excitement of, almost like a performer playing live in front of a live audience versus, cutting a record.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So next, I just hope to continue to play the blues on Thursday nights, spread my love for music with everyone, introduce people who do not know a lot about the blues to new and old artists and people who love the blues to restore their faith in mankind by playing it on the radio.
Yeah, yeah.